What's up, everybody? It's Kyle with another episode of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. This is episode 256. A couple of things before we get into today's topic. We have the Testosterone Seminar this Friday. It's at our Flemington location. Everybody's welcome if you'd like to come. I'm going over all things testosterone, the myths, the medical aspect of it, how to begin with testosterone therapy. Pretty cool. We did it last year right before COVID hit, and you could bring a friend. You could come if you're a woman if you want, if there's something you're interested in. But you'll see the event. It's on Facebook. Just look it up and then click to register for your ticket. It's free. Also, Panda number 7 begins May 3rd. If you want one of the remaining few spots, message me and we can do an interview and see if it's good for you. All right, let's get into this. The incredible power of the human mind. Most people rely on just their 5 senses and think that's all there is to the mind. There's a lot more than that to it. Now, recently, my good friend, Action Jackson, was telling me about a buddy that unfortunately took his life last week. And there's been more and more suicide around the country the past year. The media does not report on that. But every time throughout the years when I've heard of somebody taking their own life and whatnot, it's always amazing to me, because you have to think of this. Everything your brain does is for survival. Every single thing your brain and your nervous system does has survival at the forefront. So if the human mind, the human brain, the animal brain, can override all those mechanisms and decide that taking one's own life was the only option left, it shows you the incredible power of the mind. So what happens in those situations? Well, I could tell you that it starts as a thought, right? Like anything in your life. It's a seed that's planted in your head, and think of a mustard seed, right? So it's a little thought. And then that seed begins to grow. Now what happens here, and something I learned from going to different meetings and whatnot on things like addiction, are the animal brain, right? The mammal brain, the emotional part of your brain will flip, and that'll take primary control over the logical part of your brain, right? So you have, usually it's higher order reasoning, that's the human part of your brain, and then the mammal brain and the reptile brain. But what can happen is the emotional brain takes over. Now, when that happens, logic goes out the window, right? Logic will go out the window. Sorry for the dogs walking back there. And think about depression. Think about this, because a lot of people reach out to me because they're struggling up here, right? If you could control your mind and harness the power of your mind, your whole life will change. But when somebody goes into freeze mode, so you have a couple of different levels of what's going on in the brain as far as a stress response. You have flight, right? That's running away, getting away from the situation. Now, usually in life, that's not always possible. You can't just pick up and move out of the state or just decide that you're going and that's it. So flight is one of them. Now, if it was an actual physical threat, let's say you're at a bar and somebody comes up, picks a fight with you, and you know you're going to get your butt kicked, don't worry about saving face. Leave. Okay, so that's flight. Then you have fight, which is usually the last option, right? That's when you physically fight for your life. But that is the option where your chance for survival is typically going to be the lowest. So that's usually a last resort. And then you have freeze mode, which most people have never heard of or don't talk about. Freeze mode is like, okay, and again, you have to transpose this onto modern day life, but let's say a big predator like a grizzly was chasing me. And I knew I could not run it. There's no way you can physically defend yourself against a grizzly. So what'll happen is you can either play dead or you would literally faint, right? Hoping that this predator decides to leave you alone because it thinks you're dead already. So that's an option. Now, freeze mode in everyday life, how that what that shows up as, right, is it's harder to get out of bed. It's harder to muster up the motivation to do anything, right? Everything starts to become a little bit gray. You're not finding joy in anything. And what I just jotted down was freeze mode compounds. The longer you let this go on, the worse it'll become. So the longer that you let freeze mode go on, it's going to compound. When these emotions start to take over, it's going to have a snowball effect. So a couple of things I jotted down as well. And don't worry, there's a silver lining to this. What you focus on expands. So you always hear me say, where your attention goes, energy flows. What you focus on will expand. If you focus on, and think about like hypochondriacs, if you focus on this thing that's going on with your body, and that happened to me back in 2005/6, 7. I went all over the country looking for the answers to what they thought was maybe Crohn's disease, but I'd become so obsessed with this physical ailment that it was all I focused on. It expanded, it consumed my life, it took over my life. So what you focus on will expand. I talked about where your attention goes. Now, one thing that you can do at all times, okay, before you get to this darkest of places, or if you're just going through a funk, right, like most people, it's not going to reach the level of suicide or whatnot, is ask yourself, where's my focus right now? What is my focus on? I can guarantee you, if you're feeling in a funk and depressed, that you're focusing on the wrong things. So that's a question. Remember, anytime you ask your brain a question, it's going to come up with an answer. And it's a way to self-direct. What am I focusing on right now? Are you not getting the results in a certain area? You can use this for goal setting, for achievement and whatnot. Where's my focus right now? But I want to go back to the silver lining of this. And, obviously my prayers and thoughts go out to this man's family. If your mind can do that, right, and suicide has been on the rise this past year, flip that on its head. What is the other side of that coin? Because life and death are two sides of the same coin. If the human mind can take a life, what the heck can it do? What is the potential of it on the positive side? And are you willing to find out through your visualization and your affirmations and how you're living your life? Because if it can take its own life, I would argue that the sky is the limit on the flip side for the human mind, because that goes against a very survival It's like the hardest thing in the world to do, but it shows you what the heck can go on in a person's brain to get to that point where that's the only option that they feel that they have. It's completely emotional, right? So how do you use emotion to infuse the flip side, or to enhance your life and to create the life of your dreams? Emotion amplifies your attention. You got to use it to the positive. If you let emotion run the show, that's where you're going to run into issues. You're always going to run into issues when emotion is running the show. And that's where you got to check yourself. Okay, most people let their emotion drive their thoughts. Use the thoughts to drive the emotion. Use the thoughts to drive the emotion. And with all this stuff, guys, you need people to talk to bounce ideas off. And the best thing, one of the simplest things, right, because the time to implementation is so quick, is something like a journal, right? So this is something I write in. You can see every day I'm writing in there. Every morning. That's part of my morning routine. But you start to journal, and what happens when you journal, if you can nip this stuff in the bud, is you got to slow down your thoughts. So now all of a sudden you bring the human brain back on line, the human mind, because you're writing, right? So you slow down, you start bringing logic and clarity back to the situation. Lack of clarity is always going to leave you in a survival mode. And again, that's that mustard seed. Once the mustard seed is planted, mustard seed could take over the whole terrain, right? So you got to get it when it's small. You got to get it when it's small. And we all go through funks. I talked a lot about mine at the end of the year 2020 into January of 2021 when I got sick and then lost Leo. And I was in a bad spot for like 2 weeks, and that was unusual for me. But it was, working on things, having Devin to support me and making sure I was trying to get out every day to walk because I knew the movement would help me. And then asking myself, where's my focus right now? When you feel like you don't have control over anything, it's going to put you further into freeze mode. How do you gain control? And one of the things that really spurred me on at that point to kind of climb out of that hole was one of the interviews I did on Hillsborough and 100 and Real, talking with Lisa. And she inspired me. And I said, okay, time to get back on this. You got control. And it was hard, right? It's hard at first. But then once you get going, you start building momentum the other way. So that's what I got for you. Hopefully that helps. Realize how powerful your mind is and your brain is. And it's just this incredible tool that we have. It's up to you how much you want to use it. So please hit the thumbs up or the like button if you like that. And if you want to share it, please share it with somebody that might be needing a mental boost. And if you haven't subscribed yet on iTunes, please do so. I appreciate all of your support. You guys have a great day.